everyone else who joined in. Thank you so much. Okay, I think I shall begin talking now. Hello. Firstly, thank you to Delhi Food Walks for organizing this. I think everyone's been home for way, way too long, and it's time to get to all of us. All our travel plans have been at a halt all of a sudden, and I know how difficult the industry has been as well. So, the least we can do is reach everyone at home with our stories, our experiences, and yeah, so I'm here to share my bit on solo traveling. A little bit about myself. I started traveling about 5 years ago, and I was in college back then. I think I was about 18 years old, and there's been no looking back ever since. I've traveled to a lot of places in India and have covered about 14 countries all over. And I think I fell in love with solo traveling from my very first trip. It's been something that has completely changed my life in ways I cannot ever imagine, it could have had an impact. I still remember I was never an extrovert. I would never really go out making friends on my own. Was very comforted and, I was good in my own comfort zone. But that one trip and that risk I took, and I feel like I've become just a completely different person after that. So, the few reasons why I really, really love solo traveling is the fact that I get to meet people from all over the world. And I kid you not, that there's a moment when you realize that no matter where they're born or how they're raised or what country they belong to, everyone's literally the same person at the end of it. And there's that small comfort you find in strangers where you're like, okay, you know what? I'm relatable. I might not be living my life all that wrong after all. And I guess that's what led me to start talking to more people, opening up my horizons, and, just getting to know the world a little better on my own. Secondly, I think the best way of learning different cultures is solo traveling. I mean, there is nothing that beats, discovering a new country in your own time, in your own space, and doing literally what you feel like at that very moment. I know, like, most of you would really, really love traveling with your friends or family and have been doing that for years. But through this talk, I hope I can inspire, or maybe not even inspire, encourage you guys to at least, just take that one trip to figure out if this is for you or not. So instead of just talking about my travel stories or the countries I've been to and sharing those things, I want to talk about a few things that probably might help you start a conversation about solo travel with your family, or even take that first plunge towards just going to another country or city and figuring this out on your own. So, the very, very first thing I want to address, and I get this a lot, is how do you convince your parents? So I would not lie. I also took a lot of convincing and a lot of talking to my parents when I did decide to go for my very first trip. This was back in 2015, and I very vividly remember sitting them down and telling them that, you know what, I just really, really would want to discover this one thing and figure out if I can actually, be on my own and handle this bigger responsibility. And so the first thing that you need to do is have an honest chat with your own self about why you want to actually travel alone. Like, it could be a very simple reason. Maybe you just want to take some time off your usual life. Or it could be something as complex as, wanting to figure out something about yourself that you don't really know and figuring out where you fit in this world. It could be something, on either of the extremes, but you need to know and be self aware as to why you really want to do this. Secondly, after you already know what you want, you need to sit your parents down and have that honest conversation with them. It can be a difficult task because I know parents aren't too open towards such ideas all of a sudden, and you have to sort of grant them that because they have comforted and sheltered you all along, and it's a little difficult to ask all of a sudden, and for them to let go of you. But as parents, if there are any parents watching this, you need to realize that once you actually give the responsibility of managing on your own to your kid, trust me, the entire sense of being able to be trustworthy is heightened. So I still remember when my parents finally agreed to let me go, I had this overwhelming feeling, and I was just like, okay, you know what, now I really have to prove to them that I am capable of doing this. So I guess you become way more self-aware and way more responsible as a person, and it just is not limited to, being reckless or being careless when you're traveling alone. So yes, it's I think the best way is figuring a middle ground for both the parents and the kids, and figuring out how you can both be, assured and safe. Coming to the safety aspect, parents' number one concern is safety, and to tackle that, you need to come up with solutions of all the problems that they have. So you need to understand what are the basic issues they have and come up with solutions together. Plus, there's like too much of technology now in the world that can actually help you be connected no matter where you are. So, for instance, my parents and I, we use this app called Live 360 whenever I'm traveling. So, because I don't like being on my phone all the time when I'm traveling and, answering all those calls or replying to a message instantly. And that app actually lets them be aware of where I am, how much battery my phone has, and, they can see my location as I am going about. So, just keeping them mentally assured that you're safe and you're okay is all they need. So start planning your trips together, make them a part of your itinerary, make sure that they're aware of everything you're doing, and probably just start easy, like start with a place that's not too far, or maybe a place that probably they know people in. So in case they do feel like they need to reach out to you or need to help you, they are at least mentally sure that you're in a safe place. So I guess that's how you can take the first step. Then comes the most exciting part of the solo travel, that's planning the final trip. So I usually pick my trips in a very whimsical way. Like I'm very moody that way, so it literally depends on my mood and how I really want to feel like when I'm traveling. So it could range from like a beachy destination to maybe something completely metropolitan, and like I just like literally go with what my instinct says that time. But I do plan my travels a lot in advance. So say like 3 months before I really want to travel, I start looking up the places I want to visit and start looking out for like the better deals, because once you start planning in advance, you get a lot of cheap deals and you can actually save a lot of money this way. So I think the number one tip would be planning way in advance and sort of knowing your way around. And coming to knowing your way around, the most important part of this and the most interesting part for me is research. So I literally sit with my laptop all day and like keep looking up links of people who've traveled to these places, and who have had these unique experiences which are very offbeat and not just the regular ones, because you tend to sort of already know that that's already on your list. So I keep looking out for newer experiences and making a list on my own. Research would also include like a lot of hostels that I want to stay in, reading up the reviews of the same, and making decisions on that basis as well. So that also is a part of my research. Then comes budgeting, which is not so fun, but it's a very important part. You need to be sure that if you are a budget traveler or a backpacker, there's only a certain amount of money that you should be and will be able to spend. So what I usually do is I keep a cap on my top end of my budget, and I'm like, okay, this is how much money I have and this is how much I can spend. So yeah, doing that is a great habit. So you tend to not overshoot your budget and somehow are limited within those restricted areas. And yeah, so even pre-booking flights or pre-booking the internal travel, that saves you on a lot of money, because flights tend to be cheaper when you book way before your actual travel date, and they also save a lot of time and effort. So I usually go with flights as well. And another part of budgeting that I would want to talk about is the currency bit. So a lot of people I know usually take a lot of forex cards or like rely on their credit cards, but I usually love to take my currency with me beforehand. This way, I actually have my daily spend in place, and I can check, how much money I can afford to spend, and on what I need to do. So even when I'm on ground in the city, I need to decide and make decisions as to what activities can I actually, spend that amount of money on. I do have to let go on some experiences because I really have to check off something on my list. So yeah, that is all a part of the budgeting. And if you want to know more about that, you can ask me a separate question. So yes, so once you're done with all the planning, you finally reach the place, and then comes the most important topic that I get asked a lot is food. So since we're on Delhi food walks, food has to be a part of this conversation, and I feel like the number one way of knowing a place truly is through the food. So I tend to go all on the street food because firstly it's economical, secondly it's literally as local as you can get. So all the flavors, all the stories behind the recipes, all of that is truly best known when you indulge in a lot of street food. So yes, that's my go-to number one. uh, Second problem I think that most Indians face is being a vegetarian. Thankfully, I don't have that problem, but I would definitely like to bring this up because I realize that most people face a lot of issues when it comes to like finding good food that can like help you survive all day. So I know a lot of us make fun of this all the time, but there is literally no shame in carrying food from home. It's not only like a budget tactic, but it also ensures that you don't go hungry. So yeah, so like I definitely believe that if you cannot afford to eat outside or you're vegetarian, there is literally no shame in carrying your own food. Apart from that, there are a lot of convenience stores all across the world that are very underrated, to be honest. Like they're not literally just for the locals. I think it's a great deal to like just pick up a few snacks here and there so that at least one of your meals can get satisfied that way. And also, we all tend to forget, but fruits very important. So I make sure like I get my fruits intake as well, no matter where I am. So that's my little bit on the food. But yeah, if you want to know any interesting food details I've had, please ask me that in the comments. And another part of my research would definitely be like understanding the different norms that different countries have. A lot of countries have like very specific things that probably might be illegal or it's not respected enough. So some countries might have some clothing restraints or behavior restraints, and it's ideal to actually know that beforehand. So you don't really end up, offending anyone or not being respectable enough to their cultures. So this way you also like tend to know a lot about the culture beforehand, and I think that's where the difference between like a tourist and a traveler really comes. So you're not just like going and checking off, your touristy things and things to see and must do's, but you're actually sort of interacting with the culture yourself and indulging in it as well. So that breaks that barrier between the locals and you. And I feel like that's something that really, really helps getting to know the place a lot better. And being a solo traveler, you really, really would definitely want locals to, be more open to you and sort of help you around as well. So yeah, that'll be my number one tip. Make sure you know that the country you're going to, if they have any norms or regulations that you need to know beforehand, that's like always handy. So that always helps. That I think I did that for Bhutan especially, where I was very careful about what I was wearing, and I had to respect their culture. And in return, I got to interact with like some really wonderful locals, and yeah, that completely changed the way my trip. I mean, I had envisioned my trip. So yes, know about the local culture beforehand. That always helps. Connect a little bit about the safety of your belongings because a lot of people ask me how I take care of everything while taking care of myself. Very honestly, that's something that comes with practice because you do make mistakes initially and you will realize what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. But some few things like like don't carry your passport when you're going out because a lot of people tend to do that and they think it's safer, but I honestly believe that when you're outside it's way more riskier to like lose your valuables, than when you just keep it in your hostel in the locker, locked completely. So yes, that's a great habit to have. I usually keep all my gadgets and equipment that I carry, my cameras, laptop as well. So it's not a problem of safety at all. A lot of people think that hostels are like the hub of losing all your things. That's not true at all. I think I think these hostels are like genuinely the best playgrounds for meeting very like-minded people, and I don't think there should be a concern that you're going to literally just lose everything that you have. So yeah, just be aware, just be alert, and just know what you're doing at every given point, because you're the only one responsible for everything you do. So yes, that will be my 2 cents on safety and taking care of your belongings. What else? Yeah, okay. So I can talk a little bit about how specific countries have a lot of different apps. So since I did mention technology a little earlier, it's actually a great practice to know what apps work best in which countries. In my personal experience, Google Maps don't work well in most countries, and you should actually have apps like City Mappers or Mappers.com on your phone before you leave, so at least you're not lost when you get to a country. Secondly, there are a lot of cab apps like Grab or Uber and all of that. So you must know which one is more economical for you in which country, because not every app works the same way. So it's a good practice to know which app to keep on your phone. Keep a lot of translating apps if you think you're gonna have like language barrier issues, because that'll definitely come in handy as well. And before you actually reach the destination, make sure you know how to get to your hostel or the place you're staying in, and have like a map of that printed or like just saved on your phone, so there's no last minute hassles and you don't get lost. So this is how I think I learned along the way that I need to be prepared beforehand. I do remember the first few trips I took. I did make a lot of mistakes, but I sort of learned on the go. So I wish I had someone telling me all these things when I was traveling, but the least I can do is share my experiences about the same. Um, Before I open to questions, I do want to talk about something that I've really, truly learned from all my travels, and that is the fact that not every day of your trip is going to be a highlight. Not every day or every memory you make is going to be a high point of your trip. So especially when I travel for like three weeks or a month, I need to be okay, and so do you. Like if you travel, you should be okay and accepting of the fact that you're gonna need some downtime in between, and it's okay to not want to, like not want to probably talk to someone that day. Probably just take your time off everything. Maybe just chill at the hostel or by the beach, whatever suits you. But solo traveling as a whole can be very exhausting, and it's not just about you having to travel to places. It's also about having like having to deal with your own belongings, to taking care of your health, to making friends, to making an effort to like go to every place. So you don't really realize how taxing it can get to you in the end, because you're having fun in the present. So I think it was hard for me to accept that it's okay to have a downtime, and it's okay to have a day off in between, and it's okay to FOMO basically, and the place is not going to go anywhere, and it's okay to miss out on certain experiences, but not at the cost of your health. So yes, you're gonna have days where you're not gonna make any friends. You're gonna have days when you're not gonna see the most exciting place. There are gonna be days when you don't go to the best bars, but at the end of it, that's okay, because you need to also prioritize your mental health and your physical health. So yes, that was a little bit about solo traveling. I hope I made a little sense, and yeah, I would just really want you guys to have that one moment where you just decide whether you can actually do a solo trip for yourself or not. Because trust me, it's life changing, and it's something that really transforms you as a person. It enriches you, and it makes you realize a lot of things about yourself, truly. I know now like what I really like, what I don't like, what I really want in my travels, what I want in the future for myself. All these realizations, they just come from within when you're on your own. And yeah, I hope this encourages you to take that one trip, and yes. That was my 2 cents on this. And what was my favorite place? That's a tough one, but I think my favorite place has to be Helsinki. So the interesting part about this is that I spent the least amount of time in this place. I had about 20 hours, and I just took it because the air travel was cheap. But I didn't sleep the previous night. I was at the airport waiting, and those 20 hours, I had to myself to finish everything I could in the city. And I remember just running from a place, taking the metro, trying to check off everything on the list, eating the food, and taking a walking tour as well. So, yes, Helsinki has to be the most exciting and thrilling part of my travel so far. How do you get the nice pictures you have on Instagram? Okay, so I actually wanted to talk about this, but I thought that would be a little too much. But yes, I get asked this a lot as well. I feel like you just need to just lose your inhibitions and go ask people to just get your picture. What I usually do is when I see a frame that I want to be clicked at, I already know people are waiting to be clicked as well. So first I offer to click them, and in return they offer to click me. So I think that barter always helps and sort of helps you make friends as well. So have you ever booked a stay and not enjoyed it? How do you make the most of your stay then? Well, yes, bad decisions do happen because not all reviews are always reliable. But I guess you just like go with the flow. I do remember this one time we booked a really bad hostel, and it was just not a place you could like live even for one night. So we did manage to change it. So I really recommend using that option of a refundable stay. So even if you book, and if you want to change, you don't end up losing like a lot of money, and a few extra bucks just gives you that peace of mind as well. So yeah, refundable stay always. Um, What's your top five favorite local foods from your travels? I loved all my food in Indonesia, so nasi goreng has to be number one. Then, not my favorite, but a very interesting thing I did was eat a reindeer. Yeah, it's something that I don't know most people haven't done, but yeah, I did try the reindeer in Helsinki, and that was one of my most exciting experiences. Um, yeah, but like I'm a sucker for Southeast Asian food, so yes, all of that definitely. Um, how do you make friends if you're a quiet person? Um, okay, I'm not sure about how to answer this because I've always been an extrovert. I mean, I became an extrovert before I started traveling. But I do remember this one instance where I was leaving for my first trip to Thailand, and I was waiting for my boarding to start, and I just froze. And I was like, what am I going to be doing? Like, I literally don't know anyone there. I don't know if I'll be able to talk to people. What if I end up alone for all the 2 weeks that I'm there? And I just froze, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. But there was that 1 minute where I just breathed in, and I was like, okay, you know what? You've come so far. You're literally at the boarding gate. Might as well just take the risk, and we'll see how it goes. And yeah, I just went with it. I went to my hostel, and I just remember walking down to the common area to figure out if there were some people who'd be interested in talking to me. And it took me 5 minutes to just like mix along with people because hostels are full of like solo travelers and backpackers, and everyone's just open to making friends. So honestly, even if you're a quiet person, even if you just go and make an effort to just be around people, you'll just become a part of the group. So yes, I think just go for it. Just even if you don't want to talk, just be around people, and they'll make sure they include you. Do I suggest booking hostels and stays beforehand? Yes, I do. I definitely do that always. But like I said, I use the refundable option because even though I like planning all my trips, I like to keep it a little open to some spontaneous plans. Like, what if I meet a group of people and they decide to do something else instead of what my original plan was? So yes, I definitely keep it open. But I feel like it's a great idea to just have that in place. Not only that comforts your parents and family, but it's also like a comfort for your own self that you know you have a place to crash the next day or the next place you're going to. So you can always change it, but it's a good habit to just like have something decided for yourself. I think we're done. And yeah, okay, this was my first live ever. And thank you so much to everyone who came, all my friends and family who supported me. And yeah, I hope this makes you want to travel as soon as Corona hits us. I know I'll be heading for sure. I have all my trips planned in my head. Currently, I'm just in my room, but I know this will end. And I hope we all get to explore the world very soon again. And happy travels. And if you have any other questions or you want to talk to me about traveling, you can hit me up on Instagram. It's Filmy Chai. And yes, have a safe time in quarantine. Stay home, stay safe, and yes, take care.